Okay, picture this. You step into an environment where everything is just high stakes. Time almost seems to stop. Every single move, every decision, it could literally be life or death. We're talking about the emergency room. Specifically, a trauma bay?
Yeah, intense doesn't even begin to cover it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our source for this deep dive, a trauma surgeon, Paula Ferrada, she's seen this countless times. And what she's learned, maybe surprisingly, isn't just about individual skill, how brilliant one surgeon is. It's about the team, the sheer power of the team.
That's such a key point to start with, because her whole argument really is that it's the collective effort. That's what stands between life and death, not just one person's technical brilliance.
Right. So for this deep dive, our mission really is to unpack why things like compassionate leadership, psychological safety, why they aren't just, nice ideas in these critical situations.
They're necessities, actual life-saving imperatives.
Exactly. We want to explore why trust, fundamentally not fear, is the bedrock, why it's essential for these high-performing teams. And we're drawing directly from the perspective of someone like Dr. Ferrada, who's, right there on the front lines, chair of surgery, system chief for trauma. She sees it daily.
And that firsthand experience under that kind of pressure, it just offers this unique, very practical view on leadership. It's not theory.
No, it's tested.
Yeah.
Battle tested almost.
Right.
So our source talks about this choreography of urgency. What does that actually look like when a patient comes crashing through the ER doors?
It's incredibly precise and fast. You've got nurses, ER docs, anesthesiologists, respiratory therapists, radiology techs, the OR staff. Everyone has to be absolutely ready. Poised, responsive, and crucially trusted.
Yeah.
Everyone doing their specific job, but it's all interconnected.
Right.
Think about it in those moments, high stress, high stakes. There's just no room for ego. None.
Imagine a surgeon too proud to ask for something, or a nurse afraid to flag a potential issue.
Exactly. That hesitation, that fear, it directly puts a life at risk. It proves that ego isn't just some abstract problem, it's a practical danger in healthcare.
Yeah.
So this idea of the team mattering more than the individual, it's not just a nice sentiment.
It's survival.
It's survival,
Yeah.
absolutely. Which brings us back to why compassionate leadership and that psychological safety, they're not optional extras, they're core operational needs.
That really lands. It makes me think about trust. Our source brings up Simon Sinek's work on Navy SEALs.
Yeah, that's a great point.
He found that when SEALs pick their absolute elite teams, they actually prioritize trust over individual performance, which feels counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It really does, but it's profound when you think about it. Healthcare isn't combat, obviously, but the decisions, they are absolutely life or death, day in, day out. So just like those SEAL teams, the best healthcare teams aren't just built on skill sets. They're built on relationships, on trust.
So a surgeon could be technically amazing.
But if they can't trust their team, if they can't rely on the anesthesiologist to spot a complication brewing or the nurse to report a really subtle change in the patient,
then that individual brilliance is kind of hamstrung.
it's almost useless in that team context.
Bruh.
The source really drives this home. It's the interplay, the connections, the trust that transforms a group of smart people into a unit that actually saves lives.
Okay, so if trust is the foundation, what does that look like in practice? In the ER's daily grind? How does it actually affect things?
Well, it changes how people operate, fundamentally.
Yeah.
Trust accelerates action. There's less second guessing.
Right.
It removes doubt because people feel they can communicate openly, clearly. It actually energizes that communication. And importantly, it reduces cognitive load.
That mental bandwidth everyone's trying to preserve.
Exactly. That brain space you need to process info and make split-second decisions. When
Right.
people feel safe, truly safe to speak up, ask questions, even admit they don't know something, the whole system just becomes more adaptable, more effective.
And it's amazing how that safety translates directly to better performance. You mentioned adaptability. Someone like Kostas Dervitsiotis talks about trust being essential for performance and adaptation in these high reliability fields.
Yes, exactly.
So a psychologically safe team isn't just, feeling good, it actually changes how they work. Can you give an example from the source? How does that safety show up in their routines?
Absolutely. The author describes things like debriefing after tough cases, but doing it without the fear of blame.
That's huge.
It is, because it means they can actually learn, they can identify weaknesses, figure out what went wrong or even what went right, and improve continuously. And, just as vital, they support each other emotionally. This work takes a huge toll.
Of course.
Without that safety, people clam up. They hide mistakes. learning just stops.
That makes total sense. Which leads us to another big hurdle the source mentions, this idea of tribalism in healthcare.
Oh, yeah. The silos.
Right. Research, I think it was Weller, Boyd, and Cummin back in 2014, pointed out these rigid divisions, doctors, nurses, other staff, and how they create really dangerous communication gaps.
Definitely. It's a well-known problem.
So how does compassionate leadership start to break those down? How does it build that collective excellence instead?
It's really about flattening those old hierarchies. A compassionate leader actively shows and encourages that every voice matters. So, nurses feel safe challenging a decision or pointing out a change. Techs feel heard when they spot something unusual.
And the surgeons lead by example.
Exactly. Creating a unit built on mutual respect. It's moving away from that sort of doctor knows all attitude
Right.
to more of a team knows best approach. Every single member is empowered and, frankly, expected to bring their unique perspective to the table.
That's a really significant shift. And the source actually shares their own experience with this, right, at their institution.
Yeah, a firsthand account. They made a very deliberate, conscious investment in building that open communication, that mutual respect, that team accountability across all the different disciplines.
And the results, were they just sort of soft improvements or were they tangible?
Oh, incredibly tangible. Measurable, even. They saw efficiency go up, but critically, without cutting corners on safety.
That's the key balance.
Absolutely. Teams became faster, more agile, fewer complications in surgery, better coordination between departments, more consistency in outcomes. It's the kind of operational win everyone hopes for.
And they mentioned specific numbers, too, like first case on time starts jumping from, 52% to 74%?
Yeah, a huge operational improvement. So it's clearly not just about making people feel good, although that matters too.
It directly impacts care.
Directly. And maybe the most critical part. Errors were caught before they harmed a patient.
Wow.
Because team members felt safe enough to voice concerns about a process or ask a question. These weren't gains from tighter control. They came from empowerment.
Which really reframes this idea of compassion. It's not just a soft skill.
Not at all. It's a strategic imperative. When leaders themselves show vulnerability, when they ask questions instead of just giving orders, when they demonstrate emotional intelligence, they create the conditions for people to bring their whole self, their best thinking, to work.
And there's research backing this up, too.
Yes. Huseby and Olson, back in 2016, found that developing clinical leadership skills actually boosts responsiveness, quality, and trust, especially in emergency settings like the ER. These aren't side benefits. They are central to success.
This connects so well with Brené Brown's work, her famous line, "You can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability." How does that play out in medical leadership?
It's directly applicable. Leaders who replace that culture of shame and blame, who instead foster curiosity and learning, they unlock excellence. Think about it. Shame and blame are inversely proportional to accountability.
Say more about that.
Well, if someone feels shame over a mistake or even just uncertainty, they shut down. They might hide information. They disengage. That's the opposite of accountability.
Right.
But if they feel safe, if they know raising an issue will be met with, okay, let's understand this, not whose fault is this, then they lean in. They help solve the problem. They learn. That's real accountability.
So this leadership style isn't just interpersonal. It actually shapes the systems themselves. The source calls it structural safety.
Yes, exactly. It goes beyond individual interactions.
What are some examples of that? How does compassionate leadership influence, say, hospital design or policy?
Well, it affects how teams are staffed, ensuring there's enough support, avoiding chronic understaffing, how shifts are scheduled, building in rest, preventing burnout, thinking about mental wellness.
Having actual support systems in place.
Right. And policies that prioritize recovery and resilience, like those debriefs we talked about, making sure they're explicitly for learning, not for blame. It's about building safety into the very structure of the work.
And this isn't just a phenomenon in one hospital or one country.
No, what's really striking is that these core values, trust, empathy, psychological safety, you see them in successful trauma teams globally. From Latin America to the U.S., it seems to be a universal blueprint for high performance in these critical settings.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway here for you, our listener? It seems clear that investing in compassionate leadership, in psychological safety, it's not just about creating nicer workplaces.
No, the results are much more profound. We're talking about fewer medical errors, better staff retention, people don't burn out and leave as quickly.
Higher patient satisfaction, too, presumably.
Absolutely. And even stronger innovation because people feel safe to suggest new ideas.
Healthcare is just, it's fundamentally human, isn't it? It's not just protocols and technology.
Exactly. And the best healthcare is led by people who really get that, who understand that leading with trust, with humility, with compassion, it's not just good management. It saves lives.
It really comes back to that Brené Brown idea again. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change.
And in medicine, you could add, it's the birthplace of trust. And trust is what ultimately keeps patients safe.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Where in your own world, maybe at work, maybe in your community, even in your family, where could you foster a bit more trust, a bit more humility, more compassion?
Yeah, what small shift could you make today to create an environment where people feel just a little bit safer to speak up, to be vulnerable, to contribute fully? It starts somewhere.